I'd like to understand a bit more about your investing framework. So what qualities do you look for in an entrepreneur if you're looking to invest in their company or not?
So let's go back to Dragon's Den, right? So what you're really investing in a very early stage company is the individual. So yes, the plan, the market, the opportunity, and all that good stuff's got to hold water. But it's really about, is this person capable? Can I work with them? Yeah. You're going to have to. And are they capable of executing this plan? And if not this plan, then they have to pivot, because often that's the case, or it evolves, which often is always the case. Are they going to be able to deal with it? And the stress of the strain, they're building a business. That's what you're really looking at. And at the end of the other extreme, like a continuum, if you're acquiring, say, I don't know, a utility company, right? You can lose the whole board and management team in some plane crash, and placement next day doesn't matter to some extent. The world will carry on. The big risk there is more probably regulatory risk. So it's very different. So, and as you move from one side of that spectrum continuum to the other, it changes. So as businesses get larger, yes, you are looking at the team and ability to execute, but also you're looking at the historic financials, the market and the margin, all that good stuff as well. So it depends where you are, whether you're sort of very early stage, Series A, or you're acquiring an established company. A lot of businesses that I've been involved in, I've acquired. These are, these are established businesses, and well, reasonably established businesses, and I've never sort of been around for a long time. Reasonably established businesses that you are acquiring and doing due diligence on. And what you're really looking at then is, can you take that business and, you know, grow it or improve upon it or make it more efficient? And often cases, the incumbent management team doesn't make it, because you're looking for a different team with a different mindset, with a different outlook to develop that business.
Right. Okay. And I guess what are the common mistakes you see amongst entrepreneurs pitching their idea?
There's a lot of them, but at the end of the day, you're telling a story, aren't you? So one is, you know, you need a beginning, a middle, and an end, essentially, like any story. I think most people, and I've suffered from this myself, actually. I look at some of my presentations, I get feedback myself, and everyone does it. But you get lost in the wilderness. You can't see the wood for the trees. So that you understand the detail and the nuances and the potential. But investors, especially busy ones, they just want to hear the basics, you know. What's your opportunity? How big is it? You know, what's the problem? How are you going to solve it? How are you going to go to market? And can you make money doing that? And do I think you can actually execute? So you need to tick those boxes very, very quickly, capture the imagination, and then, if you need to, then get into the detail. A lot of people sort of jump into the detail very, very quickly. And also the key mistake people make, if you want to answer your question, is know your audience. It's very different pitching to somebody who knows your industry, has been in it for many, many years, and you want them to maybe come on board and become your chairman, or someone that's going to advise you, to someone who's a cold hard financial investor that doesn't really understand your business really, but they've got a pot of cash. And it's also very different, you know, pitching to a very early stage angel investor, to say, probably not your audience, but, you know, a private equity investor. It's quite a different pitch. Or if you're trying to pitch for debt, for example. So the key is to do your research on who you're pitching to, or who you're talking to, so that you're saying the right things, you're using the right language, and you understand what the hell you're talking about.
Okay, no, that's great advice. And if you had like three key piece of advice that you'd give to any entrepreneur looking to raise capital for their idea or for their business, what would you say those three pieces of advice would be?
So one is, one is what I said actually. So is you know, tell a story, you know, beginning, a middle, and an end. You know, what's the beginning? How are you going to grow the business? What's the middle? How are you going to scale it? What's the end? How are we going to get out of this and get your money back? Essentially, make that very, very clear, very crystal clear. Because a lot of the risk of sometimes of investing in companies is they turn into lifestyle businesses. You're never going to float them on the stock market. You're never going to be able to sell them. So how do you get out? Essentially, you can get locked into these things. VCs often call them the living dead, which is a bit unkind, because they can be quite, businesses are doing quite well for themselves. The other one is, don't try and push square pegs through round holes. So especially when it comes to fundraising and people, is that if you're fundraising, you know, there's no point in you having an idea in the shower and running out to Andreessen Horowitz on the West Coast, hoping they're going to give you a couple of £1 million. It ain't going to happen. Conversely as well, you need to think about who is the right investor for your business, and make sure you expend your energies focusing on those investors, not people that aren't going to do it for reasons such as on their mandate doesn't let them to for whatever reason, the geographic size, scale, stage of your business. Do your homework. Otherwise, you can waste a huge amount of time. And it can become absolutely soul destroying trying to raise money. I'm doing it now, and it can be really hard work. But for no good reason. You just hit your head against the wall for no good reason. So do your homework essentially. And the other one is your team. So you have to be brutal about your team. And that could be you to some extent as well. But just think about when you start a business, and anyone who's starting a business will experience this at some point. You tend to bring people on board who are available. Your friend, your mate, your best mate, your partner, your mum's neighbour's best mate's dog walker, because they know something about marketing and they've got a bit of experience because they're available and they want to help. Then you get into conversations about, well, how do you actually compensate them? Because you probably can't pay them. Then you start talking about shares and options. And before you know it, you're giving away 25% of your business to a group of people who I guarantee you will not be around in 3 years' time. And depending how you structure that, you need to be very careful because equity is gold dust. So no matter who's coming into your business, especially the early days, it's like, if you go to university, you spend the first couple of days trying to make friends. You spend the next 3 years trying to avoid them all. So you can end up in that situation. So make sure that you've got the right people from the outset. I mean, it's not always possible. You've got to hustle, as you say, and your team may change over time. But when they do, and if they do, make sure you get the equity back.